Hey everybody, it's Dr. Tim Harrigan. I have Bree on our call here. We're going to go over some of the vibrant tests with you guys that we've been using for a while. In fact, Bree and I have been meaning to do these for a long time now. We've been using them in our practice quite often with patients, and so they're kind of complex, and that's why we use them, in fact, because most of the traditional methods for gathering information about our bodies, they're honestly just outdated. They're incomplete. For example, when somebody goes to get their thyroid check, Bree, most of the time people bring in blood work that's like maybe 2 or 3 items about the thyroid. That's just not enough information. That's enough information technically to prescribe something to that person. It's not enough information for somebody to address the cause of fixing whatever that thing around the thyroid is causing, though. It's a complex process. So these tests are kind of overwhelming to some people, but there's technically nothing simple about the human body, right? We tell our patients every day that there's every second in our bodies are incredible. I mean, every second our brain is controlling 30,000 billion chemical reactions. Every second that happens, 30,000 billion, 30,000 billion. So when you understand that, you kind of realize how stupid we are actually, right? When we think we understand what's going on in the human body, we don't have a clue. Our brains can't even comprehend what happens in 1 second in our human bodies. So one of the things that we've gotten good at with helping people is, testing, not guessing, because similar to a headache, a thyroid issue, a low back issue, a heart issue, there's hundreds of contributing factors to that symptom. Or hundreds of different causes for that one symptom. So if somebody gets a headache, I don't know if it's because they're dehydrated, or if it's because of a hormonal issue, or it's because of tight muscle in their neck, or it's because of a micronutrient deficiency, or because of this and that. It could be a brain tumor, right? But it'd be silly for us to assume that every person that comes in with a headache has a brain tumor. Well, that doesn't make sense. But the point is, there's hundreds of reasons that contribute to this thing that I call a headache. So without testing, we're treating symptoms. And that's not what I want to do with my health. That's not what I want to do with my family's health. We want to test, not guess, but the body's complex at the same time. So going for a yearly physical, we actually have a video on this. That's one of my pet peeves. I'm not saying don't go for a yearly physical, but when you go in once a year and have 20 to 30 things tested in your body, in your blood, most of those tests are designed for prescriptions, unfortunately. They're not designed to address the cause of a problem. So you go in, I get the 30 blood measurements, my cholesterol, my blood sugar, all those really basic things. They listen to my lungs, my hearts. And then, the doctor sends me home and says, you're healthy, come back next year. So we're just sitting around waiting for things to happen. I'm waiting for my heart attack to finally occur, or I'm waiting for, the big C word diagnosis, or I'm waiting for my headaches to be there for years to finally do something. So what I've done with myself, and what we try to teach patients, it works incredibly well. I haven't had a prescription in my life in over 25 years. So you guys help me with this, but I actually get a lot of labs done on myself through different labs, mostly Vibrant. Every quarter, every 3 to 4 months, I literally measure hundreds of things in my body, not because I'm sick, not because I have certain symptoms, but because I would have no clue what my Epstein-Barr numbers are, right, until I get really sick if I don't monitor those at least occasionally. So if I can measure thousands of different things in my body today, what is 30 things once a year going to tell me about myself? Virtually nothing. So what we're doing is waiting for symptoms to occur, which at that point, again, the headache has hundreds of causes. The thyroid issue has hundreds of environmental causes, stress, adrenal fatigue, all those types of things. So your testing that we use is incredible, and it's comprehensive. So we're going to go over a bunch of the different tests here, little chunks, just a few minutes each, to kind of guide you guys to see, why would we use this test? What is getting tested? Who would we use this test on? For what reasons we might use it? And then some of the traditional methods that somebody else might use instead. But I love you guys because it's so comprehensive. It's kind of a user-friendly approach. You guys print out incredible reports based on what the tests are. You're not just simply saying what's high and low all the time. It's more information about my body so I can actually learn and address that stuff in a proactive manner versus, again, waiting for things to get really bad. Then we start doing investigative tests. Maybe after I get diagnosed with lupus or whatever it is, we want to be proactive and not just wait for those things to develop. So let's get into some of these tests now. All right, Bree. So I wanted to talk to people about the gut zoomer. This is the most comprehensive gut testing that I've ever seen. Our gut is extremely important. It's literally how we absorb and assimilate the nutrients, or the building blocks that my cells are regenerating themselves. So the gut is our second brain. Everybody's heard that at this point. If you have gut issues, this is research that's been over the past 10 years now. If you have gut issues, eventually you will have brain issues. That is a fact now. It's not a matter of if you will, it's a matter of when you will have brain issues, which is one of the scariest things we can deal with in our older age if you have a gut issue, and vice versa. So the gut, so important. Most tests out there are not even close to being comprehensive like this is. And so with the gut, it's our microbiome. Our microbiome is kind of crazy too, because the microbiome, it's kind of a strange word to some people, but your microbiome is the germs or microorganisms that aren't your own DNA. So most people know of probiotics and things like that, but it's so much more than that. So just some nerdy statistics, they say that there's about 10 to 20 trillion cells that make up our human body. So 10 to trillion cells, just kind of picture that. It's a huge number. They say your microbes, the germs on and in my body, including probiotics and a bunch of other stuff, is 10 times that amount. So let's say you're made of 10 trillion cells. My microbiome is 100 trillion microbes, because they're much smaller. But here's the crazy thing. Those microbes are not bad germs. Stop putting the Purells and all these, things to kill the germs, because you're killing and wiping out the microbiome, which is actually how you become healthier over time, by getting a good balance in that microbiome. So again, the easiest thing for people to understand is just better balance with your probiotics. But your whole body has this microbiome that needs a specific balance. So we need to stop with all the, antibacterial soaps and this and that. It's wiping it out. And if you talk to some of these people, they're actually sick quite often by doing that. We want a good, nourished amount of microbiome, basically with all the probiotics and, keeping that healthy. And the gut is basically where all of that originates. So what is this test? I know this is a stool test. Who would do this test, and what's actually included in the information with the test?
Yeah, absolutely. So this test is really meant for any number of patients. Paramount is going to be obviously any patients that have GI symptoms already. So again, a lot of these gas, bloating, indigestion, GERD, diarrhea, anything like that that's going on, but also definitely autoimmune disease, anything neurologic. Like you mentioned before, the gut is the second brain. So if you're starting to have a lot of brain fog, headaches, any neurologic type issues, it could be gut related. Diabetes, metabolic syndrome, malnutrition. Again, this goes back to the nutrients, because this is where all of your nutrients are absorbed. So really any number of people could have this test done and find something beneficial from it. And then the number of markers we're looking at on this test, it's really comprehensive. There's actually 300 markers on this stool test. It's very easy to collect too. I know some people get freaked out by it, but it's a really easy test to collect at home. And then we're going to be testing you for both good and bad bacteria. Like you mentioned, the microbiome is a ecosystem, so you have to have a little of both. So we measure all of those bacteria so that we can actually tell you and your patient what's the best strain of probiotic they should be on. Oftentimes patients will ask that, what probiotic should I take? Because there's a million of them out there. We like to test patients because your microbiome is almost like a fingerprint. It's very unique to you. So in order to determine what probiotic you should be taking, we really do need to test to see where you're at. We also look at digestive markers, again, to see how you're digesting your food, if you're absorbing those nutrients. And we also look at inflammatory markers of the gut, and that can be helpful for really, determining or helping you understand if someone might have a risk for IBS or any other IBD type issues like Crohn's or colitis or something like that that's more serious. So it can really be a very comprehensive test to tell you a lot about not only the gut, but the whole body.
Absolutely. And I think everybody's worried about their immune system over the past 3 years. So just getting all of this in balance is what we have control of. We don't have control of the outside germs we're exposed to. We're going to be exposed to those germs, whether you wear a mask or lock yourself in your home. We're going to get exposed to germs. That's just how they work. If I delay it, well, I got to go out at some point. I'm going to be exposed to them. So what we have control of is building the microbiome, is getting our gut healthy, which is our 80% of our immune system and our second brain. How many people have been stressed, because of the past 3 years too? I mean, so many, depressive cases and anxiety and all these things. It's like, well, let's work on what we have control of. The brain and gut are directly connected. So it's such a helpful test, by far the most comprehensive thing I've ever seen for that. And again, we can't see this stuff without testing it. So we just kind of are guessing based on our symptoms. And bloating is like a headache. Diarrhea is like a headache. There's hundreds of different factors and variables that contribute. So the symptoms themselves never tell us what these things will be in our body. So thank you.